and welcome to yet another episode of the Entrepreneur's Guide 2. Well, actually, it's kind of not really another episode. I'm your host, Matt Kelly, and today I actually got the honour, the pleasure of participating on The Rise to the Top, the show created by Siteman Garland. Now, The Rise to the Top is a huge show. He's interviewed over 300 of the biggest guests in the world in terms of business, lifestyle, health, fitness, some amazing people. You've heard of a bunch of them. He's got some really cool stuff. David actually reached out to his community, did a survey, and I was one of the people that he chose to go into a live consulting call with him. So this is a bit of a behind the scenes look at what we've done to create the Living Outrageously podcast, my book, The Entrepreneur's Guide to Outsourcing with Confidence, and also now the brand new show. So I got to talk about all of that to David. If you want to watch it, just click on the big link below and you'll get straight through to his site where you can watch the episode. I start at about 56 minutes into the episode, but there's some amazing content before that with 3 other lucky people who got involved. Massive thanks to David. He was a legend, such good value in terms of him just reaching out and just adding value to everybody. So I'm excited. I hope you're excited. Amazing episode and someone who's truly crushing it with some great stories. So get involved, watch this one, click the link below, and I'll see you very soon.
All right, folks, so I'm joined today, and he's got a far cooler accent than myself, because I don't really have an accent. Matt Kelly, welcome, my man. How are you?
Thanks, David. I'm awesome. I'm excited to be on the Rise to the Top. Thanks for having me.
And where you got to tell us about it real quick. Where's the accent from?
The accent is Brisbane, Australia.
All right,
Brisbane,
I love it.
Australia. I
love it. So I'm going to do my best here to help out here a little bit with some of the questions that you had, but just kind of give us a scope. Tell myself and tell the audience kind of a little bit about, because you actually have 2 shows, and sort of your brand a little bit as we kind of get into these questions. Yeah,
sure. All right. So you're right, there's 2 shows. One has been going for just over 12 months. The other one is just brand new that I'm working on right now. I'll talk about the Living Outrageously podcast because it's sort of got a cool brand around it.
Yeah.
12 months ago, friend and I decided, man, podcasting is awesome. We both are like notorious podcast listeners. He's got an awesome story, qualified solicitor, realized he hated life, went through and did life coaching, right? So that was his story. And he's got all of these really awesome concepts around the Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins style content. And I'm interested in the business, the marketing, the startup world. So we sort of brought that together and went, right, what if you could design your own life? Mm-hmm. That's what we want to build the show around. Cool. So we created an avatar of this is who our ideal viewer, customer, client would be, who's sitting there watching. And initially it was a 27-year-old male who had a good job, okay relationships, went really deep into depth about who they were and what they wanted so that we could target that content. And it's literally us, and part of the reason why I think it worked a little bit was because it was 2 crazy Australians yelling at each other via Skype, side by side, raw, no editing, nothing. In essence, featured by iTunes, a lot of people hit us pretty quickly, and we had to really quickly iterate. So that was one that's got a cool brand, fun atmosphere, and there's a good, small but really engaged community around what we're doing. So that's cool. The other show is around. I wrote a book after a little while of sort of doing that show, and that was around outsourcing because I love it. And
it's called The Entrepreneur's Guide to Outsourcing with Confidence, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And it's gone through some pretty big iterations to get to that point. We had I sort of followed the lean startup methodology of like build it a bit, iterate, and we got to this point where I went, okay, this is for aspiring entrepreneurs who just want to learn a little bit about it because they're the people that are watching the podcast.
Right.
So I'm designing a show around that, and I've got 3 pilot episodes up right now on the entrepreneursguide2.com. But basically, I wanted to hit people who are having success, may not have had success for a long time, although I did manage to pull an interview with Guy Kawasaki last week, so that was really exciting. But that's a brand new one, and I'm sort of testing the waters with that. But the questions sort of I would love to bounce off you really sit high level over both of those.
Sure. So we got kind of 2 distinct things here, but all right, let's hit into them. What's up first?
All right. So I want to talk about sort of PR and marketing and driving people to the show. Marketing is something I'm passionate about, but I've seen that obviously you had your book a couple of years ago. Rise is huge. I'd love to know how the strategy that you apply to drive PR, potentially traditional media PR, because I know that you do get some of that, and what that does for you.
So here was the trick. I don't want to even say it's a trick, but a little bit of a trick, is to how I kind of position. Because here's the thing, like, and you know this, when you launch a book, really, and I don't care if it's a digital book, a traditional book, self-published book, doesn't matter what it is, the core of who's going to buy at first is your current audience, right? Like that, those are your people. But the problem is, of course, you need more people to buy. So what the problem is, what I see people doing is they go out there and they just try to push the book, right? So meaning they go to, maybe make a list of PR, of blogs or, traditional media or TV or whatever, and you pitch the book. And you say, I'm this guy and I got this book, right? What I did was the reverse. I didn't pitch the book at all. I pitched my book was called, as you know, Smarter, Faster, Cheaper. And the reason I'm mentioning it is because what I did was I had this big concept, right, of education and teaching people how to basically market without being a douchebag, right? That was kind of like the thing. It was the non-pushy marketing and how you market your expertise, and that's how you market and things like that, right? That was kind of the thesis statement of it, right? So when I was going out and approaching the ideal places, because first of all, I was like, okay, who wants to read this book? You know what I mean? And I started making a list of blogs and, magazines and TV shows, anything, or podcasts, everything, right? And I pitched myself as not a guy who has a book, but a guy who is teaching this very interesting, unique way of marketing. And by the way, I happen to have a book. Do you get what I'm saying? So,
absolutely,
the way that I did it was, honestly, just getting out there and hustling and getting to know the people. Like a lot of when I had the book come out, I did like a big new media tour of kind of 50, 100 blogs, things like that. Those are relationships I built up through the show. So I was able to go to people and say, hey, by the way, once you have friendship with people, it's very easy to go to them and say, hey, I've got something coming out, and maybe we could talk about this kind of topic. So that's kind of my methodology for going after the PR for the book. So I would identify, at least start with like maybe 10 different things you want to go after, and have a few unique pitches ready where it's focused around content related to that, like the mistakes that
and what they do. Is that what you mean? So make it targeted to them, so it's so easy for them to pick it up and run with it.
Exactly. And then you come on as a quoted expert far more than a book dude. And then, by the way, the call to action is the book or something like that. So that's the way I'd recommend to go about that, for sure.
Yeah, that's really interesting. One thing that sort of I've been toying with is, and it's probably a very traditional way of thinking about it. You might tell me it's way too traditional. I'm not sure. Is conducting a survey of the audience and then drawing some conclusions about what they say and sort of press releasing that out to a bunch of the big traditional organizations.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and because people, you got to look at because you mentioned when your first question was traditional, right? Like so, and traditional also, by the way, as you know, could have obviously an online component as well. So, but the thing is, you got to look at what they pick up. So what do they pick up? They pick up experts. They pick up studies, which is exactly what you just said. That's a study. You know what I mean? So survey doesn't sound so awesome, even though, do the survey.
Study,
Branded as a study. Do you get what I'm saying? So in a study of talking with, XX people, we surprisingly discovered X, or not surprisingly discovered X, because people, in the traditional media world, you got to realize it's very, very quick. Do you know what I mean? I always tell people about the Today Show test, right? With the Today Show test being like you're thrown onto the Today Show or whatever show it is. You only have 3 or 4 points you can make in a couple minutes, if that, and there's going to have one little line about you at the bottom. What's it going to say? Do you know what I'm saying? And so by thinking about those things, what your expertise is, and kind of going that route, I think could be awesome.
That's awesome. That's so valuable. I'm like, that's something I can hit today, and that's like really, really, really good. I'll go more tactically on the show itself, if you don't mind for a second.
Sure.
In terms of taglines and what you've done on Rise, I know that you've cycled through a number of different ones. And Dave and I, like the co-founder of Living Outrageously, we talk about this all the time, and we've both been watching your show for a long time. And we've noticed those changes.
Yep.
And it made us think, wow, do we need to change the brand or mix it up? Or is that a test and learn exercise? And what was from your perspective, it'd be great to know, was that a change in who for you, the ideal viewer was that triggered that?
Yeah,
or was
it's exactly right on. I mean, first of all, it's funny. Every time I change something, I'm like, I know people are going to notice. I just know it. It's funny. It's funny how you do it. But Basically, so the way my perspective on it, and I actually was talking to a lot of people about this before, is they always kind of panic when they're changing, and then they like come up with an entire new brand name or something like that. Yeah. And I was like, okay, here's the thing. I want the rise to the top to be the brand, you know what I mean, with me behind it, obviously. And then the thing I can change, if I want to change something, is going to be sort of that tagline and direction. Does that make sense? Meaning, like, if I need to edit something, I'm not going to then create a completely different platform and start from scratch or anything like that. So for me, it was an evolution over time where it was like it was a combination of who I wanted to reach and the most passionate subset of the current audience. It was that combination fused. Okay. Because the cool thing about this, and this is advice really for anyone that's out there that's trying to niche down, is that you can create your own reality here, and you could change your reality if you want to. Like, there's plenty of people out there. You know what I'm saying? And the thing that was a little scary was when because basically I had a lot of smaller shifts, but the 3 major shifts that I made were entrepreneurship to online entrepreneurship to what I call mediapreneurship or experts or things like that, right? And that took time. And I wish at the beginning I would have known, start with mediapreneurship. I would have been, we'd be doing this from my yachts or something right now, right? But the idea is it took me a little bit of time to do so. But yeah, there was a point where people get scared and they're like, God, but there's these subscribers that I have or these people, and they're going to be really pissed off if I change or something like that. Well, I was just like, screw it, because I knew exactly what type of person I want to go for. So, I mean, if you feel like you need to go down that route and change a little bit that way, I would encourage it if you have a game plan in mind. Like, I just didn't do it for my health. Yeah. I knew that I was creating products, and I knew I was going to be monetizing, and I knew that was this different thing, because where I think people struggle in this or I see people struggling, is that they don't have that avatar that you kind of mentioned. And they're very unsure about what it is. And then they start building an audience, and they're not really sure who the audience is. And so the thing is, I've just kind of reverse engineered it and said, like, this is who I want, and I'm going to make them all fit into this mold one way or another. And if they don't like it, then they can go somewhere else. Yeah.
I'm not just going to scream at them and try and force them, because that would be the spammy bad stuff. Yeah, no, that's cool. That's cool. Living outrageously, from that respect of sort of niching it down and knowing exactly who your audience is, living outrageously is good for that, because there's elements of it that are quite high level, but then if you're going to watch 45 minutes of that, you've got to have hunted us down, because it's quite intense content. And we're not planning to hit the world and be on TV and whatever. That was never the goal of it. I'd rather have 1,000 people who really care than 100,000 who flick through channels.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
So on that, there's then this sort of new concept that I've created, which is the Entrepreneur's Guide. And that was more so around interviewing guests who can give advice to people who are just starting.
Okay.
First impression, I know you haven't probably seen it or anything like that, but first impression, is that too broad? Would you be niching down into a subset of entrepreneurship? Would you be looking at digital or web or business or mobile?
Personally, yes. Because I see shows struggle that are too general. Do you get what I'm saying with that? And the thing is, and let me tell you, entrepreneurship's a funny word, right? Because when I started, it was that, and then I realized what a broad damn category that is. You get what I'm saying? Like, you got the guy you got like a freelance lawyer, a guy who's building an internet business, a tech startup, and the bakery on the corner are all technically entrepreneurs. Do you get what I'm saying? And what ends up happening is that there becomes, especially for talking anything technical, a big dichotomy between different types of people and like what they do. Some people aren't going to even know what outsourcing is or whatever it might be. So first of all, I like the name. I think it's it's interesting. But you got to be careful as to who considers himself an entrepreneur and who's not. What's interesting is that I sent out a huge survey last year to our audience, huge, and that's where you got chosen from that survey to come on here. And you'd be very surprised at the amount of people that own their own business or of some kind that do not consider themselves an entrepreneur. They're not like a big fan of the word. They think it's kind of like stuffy, like whatever. So it's just something to keep in mind kind of when you're going about that, because I would love to see you try to get more specific as to what the show's about. Do you know what I'm saying? So is it for people that are trying to, start online companies? Are they in a job now and they're trying to get out of it and start their first company? They're trying to come up with an idea. Like there's different kind of phases you go along with that. And also keeping in mind, depending on where you go with that, also depends on who's got money to spend on products and services if you plan on offering that. Because if you've got a guy who has $0 in the bank or gal and they're trying to get started and whatever, anything more than like a book or something like that is going to be a big investment for them. So that's something to think about as well.
Yeah, I was definitely looking at the aspiring market, and there's elements of no money, first of all, but then there's also elements of, like, so many of these people, like, and I've learned this through the Living Outrageously community, and that's sort of where this whole tangent came from, which was, it's different content to what we're doing there, but they also care about this.
Yeah.
And so I thought, that's cool. But you're right. Most of them are probably looking to start their first website. They might want to build an e-commerce site or even just starting a blog. So perhaps it's worth taking a step back and just reevaluating.
Yeah, and also you could test that. I mean, you could test that and start creating content of different types, see which one is really, really resonating, and then kind of go down that rabbit hole. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. So, I mean, like, don't be afraid, because sometimes we sit there and we're like, I don't know exactly if they're going to be into this or that. Well, you can test that very easily just by trying some content like this, trying some content like that. It works out better earlier on than later on. Do you know what I mean? Just by testing that to see where you can go. And who does that really well is Ramit Sethi at I Will Teach You to Be Rich. Because he's got a bunch of rabbit holes you could go down. You could do the dream job. You could do the extra $1,000 a month. He's got a bunch of different kind of products and services that don't necessarily overlap with each other big time, with the exception of they're all about earning income, right? That's kind of what it's about. That's kind of the overall thing, but you got people at different levels and different things there. Yeah, that's awesome. No, that's really cool.
I mean, the questions that I've got are always very high level around the podcast, but I suppose the ultimate one the key question that I've got, and this is one that I'm brainstorming with a lot of people at the moment, is crystal ball. Imagine the scenario, you're sitting there, you're predicting the future, 5, 10, 20 years, whatever you like. Video content for web. Is this the sort of stuff that people will be watching on their TV all the time? I know that you can do that to an extent now, but I feel like there'll be a tipping point where that becomes, like, real. Audiences get much bigger. Is that the way you see it going?
That's a great question. Man, I'd love to look into the crystal ball. I mean, it's certainly getting easier and easier to watch on TV as opposed to not on TV, but it's still kind of an early adoption thing. It really is, because, like, for example, like, I only have, like, I think one TV I can get web stuff on if I want to, and then am I going to really go onto YouTube and watch stuff? I don't know. You know what I mean? So I still view it as an internet play, because I think it's almost the opposite situation. Like, I would almost prefer to have people consuming on the internet or on a device where, let's just be honest, being an entrepreneur as well, all right, being someone that has commerce involved here, I also want people to have the ability to purchase or
see stuff.
Yeah, I mean, or to be able to visualize it. So I don't necessarily even worry about TV, because I think that, it could be another consumption device, but is it going to be a great marketing device, or is it going to be something that's more for your audience that already knows who you are, that then they're like, oh, I recognize Matt, and here's Living Outrageously, or here's Entrepreneur's Guide, and now, oh, okay, great, I'll subscribe to that because I'm already a fan. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if it's infinite channels, it's going to be hard to kind of find someone. You know what I'm saying?
It's noise.
But I will tell you this, though, a trend that I see kind of with video or just podcasting or shows in general, right, is less people that are what I would call pundits. So what a pundit, you know what I mean, is someone that sits there and kind of like goes through news stories, or like a Leo Laporte, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like who knocks it out of the park with it, but he's a pundit and he does a news show basically, or commentary show. Those are a lot of fun and you can have a great time with those, but those aren't ones that are necessarily going to pay too much of the bills. And so what I'm seeing is the trend, I mean, Leo's does because it's an outlier, but I'm saying the people that I see success in the next 5 to 6 years of doing this are people that have an expertise, like you do. Like when you wrote a book on it, I mean, you have this nailed down. They have an expertise, and that show and kind of brand, whether you're interviewing others or doing a solo show, it doesn't matter, is centered around an expertise and a smaller niche audience, though. But they want to buy, and they view you as someone that can really teach them information or inspire them and things like that. I just see that trend because there's too many people that come out to me and honestly, they say like, oh, I want to do like the show and I'm just going to like review like Apple products and stuff. I'm like, okay, great. You know what I mean? But I think that's
join the crowd.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a business. Do you get what I'm saying? So you have to view it from that perspective, and I think that's where, I mean, you're really doing so many things well. I think it's just a case of kind of keep going, because your gut instinct from what I was doing and researching your stuff before seems to be the right move, you know?
Great. Oh, excellent. I appreciate that. Yeah, but it's always an iteration, and that's where I like all this stuff, because if I niche, I know with the Entrepreneur's Guide that does need to be niched down in some capacity. I suppose the testing point for me is working out to what extent, and ultimately just test different content.
Yeah, I think that. Okay, so I'm going to go against sometimes what I tell other people. You know what I mean? Because sometimes, because sometimes I feel it just depends on the person. It depends on what they're working on, right? Some people I say, like, you better get down there now, so nitty gritty into a niche that I can't. I need to pull you back. Like, you're like, I want left-handed entrepreneurs in Brisbane who have, you know, red hair and are under 40.
There's probably one of them, just to give you a sample
right. But I'm telling you what, they're gonna
yeah.
love that show. But the thing is, I almost want to pull you back from there. The other hand, though, and where I see you, because I understand kind of your perspective on this, there is an opportunity to kind of start a little bit broad, like you're at now, a little bit broad, and kind of test a little bit, and then tailor. Because that's what I mean, let's just be honest, that's what I did. Do you get what I'm saying? Because I was a little bit unsure. I was a little bit unsure, and you might be surprised about who you start to serve that you didn't even think about. Like, you might notice, like, I had someone I was talking to the other day, they just didn't know, and, like, all of a sudden they realized that, like, everyone that was following them was a speaker. Like you know, on the speaking circuit, and they were sick of traveling and stuff like that. That wasn't really the game plan. Like, the game plan was kind of more general. And then they realize, oh my God, it's speakers. Then they tailor it down, and they got, like, they're gonna crush it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so I think that you could be testing those things. Another great example, Derek Halpern. I'm sure you're familiar with Derek. Derek, by the way, should be paying me cash for the amount of times that his stupid little face comes up in conversations that I have. Let's just be honest, that little hobbit. But anyway, Derek, who I love, Social Triggers is his site. Okay, it's marketing and psychology. It's two interesting things combined that a lot of people don't do, so it's a little specific, right? But it's relatively broad in the scope of things. It's not like marketing and psychology for, you know, fish entrepreneurs or something. You know what I mean? It's relatively broad. But then he realized that he built this community of people that wanted to create a blog like his, using his philosophies, using his traffic methods, whatever. So now he teaches courses focused on that, but that wasn't necessarily his initial goal when he was starting his site. It just kind of, his audience sort of bobbed and weaved him to that point. So that's something that I think is going to be important. So I think you can knock it out of the park, though. So I've got full confidence in you.
Let's just keep testing. We'll keep testing and just keep rolling it out. And I'm just going to play with it, because right now it's literally like, I mean, does it need to be a business? Ultimately, yeah. Do I need to create that community and that environment? Yeah. But it's like, the buzz for me is turning into a game. Like, let's see what we can do with this. Let's see how we can iterate with this, and let's play with it to make it fun.
Exactly, and we'll leave it right there. I mean, well, you know, and I want you, Matt, to go and report back to us. Do you know what I mean? Let us know.
Yeah, sure.
Let me know. Let everyone else know, because I would love to hear, kind of, you know, few months and 6 months and 8 months down the line here. I'd be very interested to see what your insights end up being. Do you know what I mean?
Great.
To get to that point. So I would love for that to happen, man. And good luck with everything. If anything else we can do for you, we'll make sure to link up stuff below so people can check it out. And I'll link up. You know what? It's your lucky day. I'll link up the Entrepreneur's Guide to Outsourcing with Confidence as well. It's a Kindle book there. We'll link that up as well. And good luck, my man.
Thank you very much, David. Like, truly, like, amazing stuff. And yeah, we all love your work. So thank you very much for what you're doing.
All right, my pleasure. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed it. A little bit of something different today. I think I hope it gets the wheels going for you. I hope it gets the brain spinning. I hope it gets I don't know. I'm looking at all kinds of cliches. Whatever's going on right now, I hope you get that. And a reminder, hop on the Rise VIP email list if you haven't already at therisestop.com/VIP. And why you want to be on that list is because not only will I send you the episodes, like a personal email with the episodes and everything, but I will also send you other cool stuff that's going on. Like I do DSG TV every Monday, which is like a short tip-related video that's going to be useful to help your business and other kinds of cool stuff. So make sure to get on there at therisetop.com/VIP. And also, one more shout out on the way out to our good friends at GoToMeeting. Nab that 45-day free trial. I'm telling you, it's just an excellent tool. You know, if you do coaching or if you do meetings online or you do anything and you want to make sure you have that stability and you can see the other person, and you know, it's just a very, very simple tool. Well worth it. Try it free, 45 days. No obligation or anything like that. therisetop.com/GoToMeeting. So I will see you next time. I'm Siteman Garland. And remember, if you want some fluff, you know what to do. Go pet a bunny.